All right, everyone. Hope y'all are doing well. We are live again in Virtual Wholesaling Made Simple. And this week is really exciting because I don't do this very often. We're going to be doing let me fix my camera here. Okay, cool. So we are going to be doing a live Q&A. So this is your chance to get coached by me for free today in Virtual Wholesaling Made Simple. If you are working hard to make this wholesaling thing happen yourself, you have questions around virtual wholesaling, and you're just really not sure what to do next, then these are the calls that you want to join. You want to ask those questions, get the answers you need so you can take next steps. That's what I'm all about, guys, is next steps. So we're going to give it a second for people to start coming on here. I can already see that people are coming on, which is fantastic. So when you come on, guys, make sure to go ahead and accept the StreamYard terms and conditions. And that way I know who I'm talking to. Otherwise, you come up as Facebook user and it's just kind of weird. So just go ahead and accept the StreamYard terms and conditions. There's a link in the post. You can see it in the live in the group. Click that. It'll allow Facebook to reveal your name through StreamYard, which is where I'm streaming from. And we can know who you are and engage. So I thrive off interaction. So go ahead and post where you're watching from in the comments, and I'll look forward to getting rocking and rolling here. Peg, what's going on? Good to see you. Very cool. I see more people coming on. Fantastic. Love it. I'm just going to go ahead and open the group in a separate window to see if I can see that. 1 second. Perfect. Cool. Guys, so again, this is a Q&A, live Q&A we're going to be doing for virtual wholesaling today. So I want to make sure that I get all your questions answered. So Peg, being that you commented there, go ahead and fire off a question. If you have any questions relating to virtual wholesaling, getting going, anything like that, I'd love to be able to answer this for you and get rocking and rolling. In the meantime, I did see some people post questions in a thread that I'm going to be answering here. Diana, Texas. I love Texas. Texas is such a great state. Everything's big in Texas. The houses are big in Texas. The seller lists are big in Texas. The amount of cash buyers, that's big in Texas. Texas is great. So, okay. So we actually had a question come in from somebody. Amber Huggett asked this question. Boom. So she says, in wholesaling, is it ideal to close the deal fast, so 30 days or less? I'm finding people who need more time. How do you find the middle ground of not being too pushy, but yet not losing the deal because you let too much time go? Is it okay to stretch the deal out 60, 90 days? Okay, this is a really great question, okay? And I find that most wholesalers do this completely wrong, okay? So here's what you want to do. So in the wholesaling world, we live in a 30-day world, right? Where obviously the goal is the sooner you can get the deal closed, the sooner that you can get paid, which is fantastic. So you always want to shoot for that first, right? However, we are also in the business of solving problems, right? And if all we're trying to do is bend sellers to our will and get them to do exactly what we want them to do, it doesn't really solve their problem or make them feel comfortable with moving forward with us, right? So when it comes to the date and the purchase agreement, right? So say you have a seller that says, hey, I really want to move forward with you. Your offer looks good. I'm just not sure that I can move forward in the time frame. Amber, what's happening in Montana? I'm not sure that I can move forward in the time frame that you've given me. I'm older, and 30 days is just too quick. I don't have any family around. I'm going to have to do this whole move myself, and it's going to be really difficult for me to be out in 30 days. Do you think we can work with that? I mean, what can I do 90 days, right? So what you want to do in that situation, right, is you kind of want to act like that it's a big deal, and you have to move some things around to do it, to make it happen, but you can in the end make it happen for him. Say, listen, ideally we'd like to get done 30 days. However, it is our commitment to work on your timeline and make sure there's no stress for you to get this done, and you can have time to do the things you need. Do you think there'd be a chance that you could make this happen in 60 days? Would 60 days be better for you? And if she says, yeah, I could do 60 days, then you'd say, okay, I'll tell you what, why don't we do this? Because I don't want there to be any pressure for you, right? Why don't we agree to 60 on or before 60 days? And if you need a little bit more time, I'm happy to give it to you. Boom. So there you go. You shave 30 days off there, right? you always want to try and get that time frame down a little bit, because people tend to overestimate how much time that they need, and you need to have some type of fire lit under them to where they understand this is happening, you're moving forward, and you want to get this done as quickly as possible, but at the same time working with them on their timeline. We've had a lot of sellers like this, right, where they've been elderly. It's kind of sad, really, where their families basically abandoned them. And, maybe they got into an argument with them or something like that, and they hurt the relationship. And now they're at a point where they have nobody, right? And they're the only ones who have to move. And one of the things that we do, Amber, which is really helpful too for these sellers, is, again, our first position is to serve and create win-wins, right? So Heather and I have actually paid for moving trucks for sellers if it'll help them get out of the house faster. Like, if we're talking to like an 80 or 90-year-old seller, and she's like, look, I want to sell. And let's keep in mind, let's just say this is a fantastic deal, right? And the seller is like, look, I really would like to be out in 30 days. I'd love to, but it's just, I have to move this entire house by myself. I don't know how I'm going to do it. It's going to be really tough. None of my family will help me, and I'm all by myself. So at that point, we have a big heart for sellers. And so we'll be like, let me ask you, let's say we could help you with the moving expenses, right? Well, we could have a truck come by and help you clear everything out of your house and get everything moved for you. That's not something that could help you move faster, would it? Right? And they'd say, oh my gosh, you guys could do that? Say, we don't typically do this, but I can tell that you could need some extra help. And at the end of the day, I'd love to be able to help move this thing along. So if that's something that we can do, we have no problem helping you with that, So we've done that before. Matter of fact, when Heather and I were wholesaling locally, there was one particular seller that came to mind where we actually went to his house and helped him move, which was pretty crazy. We went to Publix. We got some fried chicken from Publix because it looked like he just didn't have any money at all. We got like a gallon of sweet tea, and he had some of his neighbors' friends came over, and we all came together and moved, and it was just crazy, but it was such a blessing. They almost cried when we bought all that stuff. So my point is, guys, wholesaling, you have a huge opportunity to make a fantastic income, right? But at the same time, you can also impact people in a big way. Now, here's the thing. If you're ever fronting expenses for a seller, you want to make sure that you are locked in with them and you are definitely moving forward. There's no hesitation whatsoever. And you can also do this too. Something else you can do. You don't have to pay the expense out of your pocket. You say, hey, listen, what if we, what we could do is what if we could advance, some of the money that you're going to receive from the house, and we could apply to a moving truck. So that way, you can get moved. And then when we close, we'll just take it out of your proceeds at closing. Simple, right? And sellers really like that too. That's a huge thing. So I'd recommend for you guys to build a relationship with a small mom and pop moving company in your area. That would be great for these type of situations, and even a junk removal company. That can be huge, right? Because sometimes sellers are like, I have all this stuff in the house, I'm overwhelmed, especially for inherited properties. And they're like, I just don't know what I'm going to do, right? And at that point, you're like, you know what? I actually have a company that I can refer to you. And even better, guys, if you can get a kickback for referring them business. If they say, hey, we'll give you 10% of the job, right? Boom, you're making money for helping a seller at the same exact time, right? So junk removal, moving companies, those are all in a trusted local realtor. And ideally, you want to use your property inspector if you're doing this virtually. So the property inspector is the person that you build a relationship with, who are your boots on the ground in the virtual territory that you're in. And basically, if they say, hey, I'll sell this house, but not until I find another house. So you want to immediately put your property inspector on them and say, hey, please find them the house as soon as possible. And then you can put in the contract, the purchase of the property is subject to the seller finding a new home, right? So that's something we've done too, because there's sellers that have said, hey, I would sell to you, but I don't want to commit to a contract if I don't know where I'm going, right? So we'll say, well, what if we could do this? What if we could put in the agreement, right, that the purchase of the home, us buying your home, is subject to you finding another place to live, and we could even put a realtor with you to help you find a place. If we could do that, you wouldn't want to move forward today, would you? Well, yeah, I would. That'd be amazing. Great. Boom. Again, solving problems, guys. That's what we're doing. So if you can think outside the box like this is really the difference between getting deals closed and not. So the average the average real estate investor, right, will close anywhere from 20% of the offers that they put out there over the phone, typically, right? A rock star will close 30%, right? Sometimes even more, even up to 50%, right? The difference between the average and the above average is these little things that you think of along the way that does whatever it takes to get that contract over the finish line and helps the seller at the same exact time. Cool. Let's see here. Right. That's awesome. Love to help the elderly. Boom. Yeah. Got to do it, especially in Florida, man. And again, one of the things I talk about a lot is I talk about separating yourself from the competition. People say, Chris, is wholesaling saturated? Wholesaling is not oversaturated at all. There's so few good wholesalers. And the difference between you getting the deal versus somebody else is you thinking outside the box and truly caring, right? That's really the difference there. Okay, so Brenda says, I caught the live. How often should we follow up after a motivated seller ghosts you after an offer? Before we move on to this one, sorry, Brenda, 1 second. Amber, did that answer your question there about the extending 30, 60, 90 days? I know I kind of went off on a little tangent there, but I felt that really applied to the situation. Just want to make sure that I answered your question there. So while I'm waiting on that, I'm going to hop to Brenda, and then I can expand on that a little bit more, Amber, if you need. Okay, I caught it live. How often should we follow up after a motivated seller ghosts you after an offer? Oh, this is a great question. So when a motivated seller ghosts you after an offer, okay, you want to follow up with them in a way that's persistent but not obnoxious, if that makes sense, right? So what I would typically do is I would follow up with that person every day through a combination of calls, texts, and emails, right? And after 3 days of trying to follow up with them and not being able to get a hold of them, I would ask them, hey, last time we spoke, it sounded like you were serious about selling your property. We agreed to an offer, or I made you an offer for your property for $250,000. It sounded like it was going to work for you, but I haven't been able to reach you. Has something changed? Did I do something wrong? Did I upset you? I hope I didn't do anything wrong. Please let me know so I know how to follow up. Right? Setting something like that it's like a very down-to-earth type of message, and it re-engages them and makes them want to reach back out to you, because sometimes these sellers, they just don't have the heart to tell you no, right? That's the bottom line. They don't feel comfortable doing that. They don't like confrontation. And so it's just easier to ignore you. Sometimes what they're doing is they're not saying no to you. So the good thing is if you made an offer and they didn't say no, you're still in the game, right? So that's the good thing, right? But if they didn't say no to you and you continue to follow up and then they don't respond even after that last message, then just shift your follow-up to, I would say once to twice a week. Heather may have a different feeling about that, but what I would do is I'd try to follow up with them for 3 days in a row. My last message would be something like that. And then if they don't respond to me after that, then what I would continue to do is I just add them to like a weekly follow-up, right? And the theme of my messages would be, hey, please get in contact with me as soon as possible. Let me know if anything's changed. That's okay if it did. If there's any way that we could, if something changed, that's totally fine. Just let me know. I don't want to bug you, just so I know how to follow up, right? That's kind of like the theme behind the messages there. So, yeah, but Brenda, bring that to the weekly call in the Virtual Wholesaling Made Simple coaching tomorrow, for sure. So good stuff. Great question. Okay, so Peg, she says, with elderly homeowners, do you suggest someone else be involved in the presentation and contract issue? And how do you do that virtually? Thanks. Okay, great. So typically, no. Usually, we're able to get agreements signed by sellers using DocuSign. DocuSign is so simple. Don't use any other signing platform. DocuSign is very simple. It's like literally click the yellow button and sign. Right? So it really helps to be on the phone with these sellers while they're accepting your agreement. Like if they accepted your offer, great. are in front of a computer. You get in front of a computer with them, and then you're reviewing the document with them through DocuSign together, and basically asking them, if they have any questions, just to let you know, you'll just kind of hang tight here, right? And then they won't ask you questions, and they will ask you questions. You answer the questions, and then you just kind of move on. But that's a surefire way to get the agreement. There are some sellers you're going to talk to that says, I haven't turned on a computer since 1985, right? And they want you to send the contract over on a dinosaur, basically, snail mail, right? And we don't want to do that, right? So what you'd want to do, the next best thing is have your property inspector go by and have them collect the contract for you, right? So they can sign in person, or you can send a notary over to the seller's property, and the seller will sign the agreement. Make sure you're on the phone with the seller at the time the notary gets there, so you can answer any questions for them while the notary's collecting the contract. They'll scan the document back to you. They'll mail you the physical box, and you're in business. So that's how you want to do that. But we come across that from time to time, and that really helps with the sellers who are saying, I'll never sign with someone over the phone. I got to meet them in person, belly to belly, and that's the only way I do it. I talk like this, guys, because this is how people sound in Florida sometimes. So it's really funny. But anyway, so you gotta have some fun with it, right? But that's what we do in Florida for the people who are won't sign over the phoners, right? They're the people that want to do that. There has been times where a seller has literally signed an agreement and FedEx this agreement back. But then there's been times where they've mailed it to us. We've done that before. They just refuse to have anyone come to their house. It's really funny. But it's what it is. And we do whatever we got to do to get the deal done. So, okay. So Amber says, great idea. Thanks, Chris. I love these questions, guys. You guys are answering some good questions today. Ask some good questions today. Makes sense. Thanks. Yep. On my list. Great. Great. Thanks. Awesome, guys. These are really fantastic questions. I think these are some of the best questions that we've had so far. So really awesome stuff, guys. Love it. Let's keep those questions going. Keep them going. What other questions do you have? Do you have any questions about, picking a territory? Do you have any questions about cash buyers, getting sellers, anything like that? Happy to answer those questions. Let's see if we have any more in the group. Yeah, so one thing that you're going to find, and as you've kind of seen the theme with the questions that I've answered, is you really have to be willing and open to think outside the box. See, when you're first getting started in virtual wholesaling, you may end up like me, right? Where when I first started, I was very strict on my criteria. Like if I couldn't get a seller to say yes at 50% of market value, didn't matter the condition of the property, it wasn't a good deal in my book, right? I was way too strict with my criteria. When we got deals, they were fantastic deals, but we got very few deals in the very beginning because of that. So you want to be flexible with your criteria, right? You want to make sure that you're flexible with sellers. It's not like if a seller can't close in 30 days and it's a done deal and you can't do it. There's even times, guys, where someone will inherit a property, but the property has not been transitioned from the estate. So the person who passed, whenever someone passes away, they leave behind what's called an estate, right? And in the estate is all of their assets, namely a house, right? So if you have a house that's left in the estate, right, the only way to transfer it from the estate to the beneficiary, so the person that's supposed to receive that house when the other person passed away, right, is through a process called probate. That's the only way to transfer that, unless there's, unless the house was in a trust and there's some other things. But anyway, bottom line is sometimes you come across situations like that, and there's two types of probate, right? There's a short probate and a long probate, right? The short probate, you want to date the contract out for 90 days, at least in Florida, right? Laws can vary from state to state, right? So you want to date the contract out in 90 days to give yourself some time to be able to have an attorney transfer the estate from the house from the estate to the beneficiary. And in Florida, that takes roughly about 90 days for the short version of probate, right? And that's typically when someone passes away. I want to say, I may be flip-flopping these, but I don't think so. If the person passed away more than 2 years ago, then that's the short probate. But if the person passed away less than 2 years ago, then that's the long probate. Long probate, you want to put 6 months on the contract. It can take up to 6 months to close that deal. So knowing these things can be really helpful. And where do you get this helpful information? A lot of times you're first getting started is a coach. I learned by trial and error in some cases, and I hired a coach early on, and that was invaluable in helping me guide me through these processes. And I can tell you it's so much easier when you have someone helping you versus when you're trying to figure this stuff out on your own, because it can cost you deals. I spoke with someone a couple of weeks ago who said that, he didn't want to, he'd never hire a coach. There's so much information out there for free he could learn on his own. I said, go for it. If you're one of those types of persons that you can do that and organize all that info and put it together and make it happen, then go for it. And he said, I asked him about some deals he was working. He said he lost 3 deals recently. And I said, really, talk to me about those situations. And then I had him tell me how much money was involved in those deals. So he had roughly about $45,000 or $50,000 in those 3 deals. And he dropped them for silly reasons that I could have easily been like, oh no, just do X, Y, and Z and you're done, right? And he could have had $50,000, but investing in a coach is too expensive, right? It's crazy. That's how people think sometimes. Guys, like, don't step over dimes to pick up pennies, okay? Really important. You don't want to do that. You got to have some guidance here. And that's one of the reasons why I do one of these Q&As every now and then, right? Not everybody's in a position where they can invest in coaching. So I want the people to come to these calls, ask questions so I can help them, and then kind of go from there. Let's see here. We have Brenda. She's asked the question here. Thoughts on Propelio comps in non-disclosure state? I think Propelio is only available in Texas, I want to say. And I've only heard of one person using them. But one of the good things about that, I believe, it's connected to the MLS. The MLS is the largest marketplace of properties being bought and sold. If a property is listed with a realtor, it goes up on the MLS. And typically agents only have access to the MLS, right? Where that is helpful, having a software that connects to that, is that you can see sale prices of homes in states that don't disclose the sale prices of homes unless you have access to that, right? So that could be an option. But Brenda, I'm actually investigating a different option, and I'll have an answer on that next week. In the meantime, PropStream is perfect for you for right now. We've done some deals in Texas using PropStream. So just use that for right now. And I actually have another a tool that I'm investigating next week that I feel is going to be a great fit for our community, in addition to using side-by-side with PropStream if you're in a non-disclosure state. And heck, even if you're in disclosure states, it's pretty amazing. So not going to break the bank either. So yeah, hang tight on that, and I'll get you an answer on that next week. Okay, can you run some numbers? Yes, I certainly can. Absolutely. So we can do that here in a second. If anyone has an address that they'd like me to comp here in less than 15 minutes, I can do that. For those of you who see me do this in our live Science of Comping series we're doing, you can see that we can knock those out fairly quickly. So if you have a property, a lead that you want me to look at and value, I can go ahead and share with you what that is so you can be empowered to go in with a strong offer. Diana, so house in really bad shape, property owner is listed, but forwarding address is a senior living center. Phone numbers show either disconnected or not answering. What other ways to contact them? Oh, that's a good one. So here's the thing. The reason why I love this deal here is because it seems like the seller's hard to get a hold of. What you guys will find is the harder it is to generate a lead in wholesaling, or the harder that it is to get the list, or the harder it is to find the seller, the better the deal it's going to be, number one, and the lower the competition, number two. Those two things are a perfect storm for an amazing deal. So if you can put in the elbow grease where someone's not willing to do that, then you can come out on top and get some amazing deals. And this is where some of the biggest deals come from, guys. Again, being a detective, asking questions, being a problem solver, thinking outside the box. This is one of the best things that you can do, is figure these things out and get there before somebody else does. Because most people are just like, no, I just want to pull a list. I don't want to find this seller who's so difficult. I'll just go with the low-hanging fruit somewhere else. But this is where you make your money in wholesaling right here. All right, so let's take a look. So house in bad shape, property was listed, forwarding address to senior living center. So let me ask you, so did you look up the senior living center? If you looked up the senior living center, and what I would do is I would call them, right? Call the senior living center directly, unless the senior living center is shut down, which is kind of unlikely. So what I would do is I would call the senior living center and say, hey, you're trying to reach Sandy Smith. You're calling about Sandy, trying to reach Sandy Smith. You're a local investor in the area looking to buy a property and want to see if she considers selling. Want to see if you could get put through, right? So you call the senior living center, and you didn't even have to go into all that. You could just say, hey, my name's Chris, and I want to see if Sandy Smith's available, or could you transfer me to Sandy Smith? And they say, yeah, what's this regarding? Oh, I buy houses in the area and saw that she may be interested in selling and want to give her a call and see what we could do there. You could say something like that. Or I help homeowners who are downsizing, sell their properties and wanted to see if she'd consider a cash offer. You could say that. And then they may say, oh, we'll forward along the message. And or you could say, hey, does she have a secondary contact that I could call and get in contact with? You may have to do a little bit of digging there, right? You could also send her a letter, right? You could put together a little letter, say, hey, I'm calling about your property at 123 Main Street. Please give me a call as soon as possible. Put that in the mail in a invitation style envelope with first class postage on it, and she may give you a call, right? You can also skip trace her relatives too. And the way you do that is either using a service called LeadFusion, which I can provide you here. 1 second. Let me go ahead and put a link for that. You can skip trace sellers for just 6 cents a piece here. And this is really helpful. So I'm going to drop this in the comments in the Facebook group. Okay. I just dropped the link. It should be posting here in a second. So you'll see that. Boom, posted. So we also give you 1,000 free skip traces. So that'll definitely help. Yeah. So like I said, think outside the box, try to reach her directly. If you can't reach her, skip trace the relatives, right? LeadFusion does that. That's their skip plus feature. And then what I would then do is also send a letter, do all the above. Okay. So hire Chris as a coach. Thanks. Appreciate that, Amber. Love the kudos. Excited for your success too, man. You are on fire. You've made 2 offers to sellers. It looks like one of them is going to be accepted, and super excited about that for you and all your success. You've only been in the program not very long at all, and you're just rocking it out. I love it. And guys, by the way, if you guys would like to apply for coaching, go ahead and go to virtualwholesalingmadesimple.com, and you can have the opportunity to work with me one-on-one, and love to see you in your success and help get you to wherever you want to go. All right. So let's see. Do you consider ARV and repair cost? I hear some leave it up to the buyers. Okay. So this is a really good question. Let me refresh the group so I can see who this is. It just says Facebook user. Okay, it's not showing me who said that, but it's okay. Just accept the StreamYard terms and conditions, and then from there, you can, I'll be able to see your name. So when it comes to the ARV, for those of you who don't know what ARV means, that just means the after repaired value of a property. Okay. And after repaired value is the value of a property and it's fully fixed up condition. So if a seller is selling you a property owner is selling you a property, and as is condition, it's outdated, it's got holes in the walls, it's all messed up, right? They haven't updated anything in over 5 years, and they just want out, right? So to value that property, you want to look at what the value of that property is in its best possible condition. So how do you do that, right? This is how you come up with your offer. You want to find 3 similar properties that sold that look like your property, okay? And I can go over that here in just a second. That look like your property, but they are fully renovated, right? So you look at them. If you look at a property, you're like, wow, that's nice. That's how you find 3 of those, and then you want to take the average of 3 of those and then come up with that value, right? So when it comes to repair costs, right? So we don't estimate repairs at all. We do it completely differently. In most states, from what I found, outside of states like California, New York, and some of the really, really competitive states, in most states, if you can pick up a deal at 50 to 60% of the fully fixed up value, you have a fantastic deal in your hands, right? In most states. There are certain states where that doesn't apply. We dive a little bit deeper in that with my coaching clients, but just having that guide of 50 to 60% of the fully fixed up value, that right there is good enough for you guys and good to start with and kind of go from there. One of the things when a buyer asks is how much you think is, the property's going to take to repair. We tell them, it doesn't matter what I think, I'm not going to be doing the remodel, right? Buyers love to put wholesalers, especially newbies, in a position where they have to answer questions like that, because the newbie is going to try and show off what he knows and be like, oh yeah, this kitchen's going to be at least $50,000 or $30,000. In the back of the buyer's mind, he's like, I can get this thing done for 10 to 15, but he's going to be like, absolutely, it's going to take $30,000 to $50,000. That's why I need it much lower than your asking price. And you're like, oh God, shot yourself in the foot, right? So don't do that. Don't give repair estimates. Leave that to the contractors. So let's see. So Brenda says, okay, great, got it. Amber gave me an address here. Perfect. All right, so we'll take a look at this one really quick. Before I do, let me go through and answer some other questions here, and I'm gonna come back to this. So, so yes, cool. Locally in the same city, love it. Already sent a letter, great. And here we go. Okay. And Amber says, when we say we're a local investment company buying house in your area, do we need an LLC in the state? Are we doing business? My LLC is in Montana and I'm wholesaling in Texas. I thought about this when I sent the promissory note. No, you don't need that at all. We have a LLC in Florida and we wholesale in multiple different states. The only way that you need an LLC in that state, and again, this information I'm giving you is for educational purposes only. You want to make sure you run this by an attorney or a CPA, because I'm not either one of those things, right? But what I'll tell you, in my experience in doing this over 10 years and over 600 deals and operating in multiple states, you don't need an LLC in another state unless you're going to have a physical location, right? So if you have a physical location, again, this is another reason you want to go virtual, guys, because if you want to go into another state and you're wholesaling locally, you have to open up a physical location. You have to have people working for you. It's a big mess, right? So I don't recommend doing that at all. I recommend going virtual. You can have one LLC, keep it simple, and do deals anywhere in the country. But here's the thing, guys. When we say local, we're a local home buyer in the area. We're looking to buy local. So people ask you, hey, where you're based out of. You can say, oh, our headquarters is based out of Florida, but I'm buying locally here in Texas. Great. We have a local team here in Texas. Okay. Peg says, would you please work the numbers on 914 South Brazos, Rutherford, Texas? Some FSBA owner had a renter in it, said I should have firm offer $120K, but I'm thinking it's too much. Owner says a full gut job. Thanks. Sure can. Yeah. So let me do Amber's first, and then we'll come back to that one. So let me go. I'm gonna load up PropStream here, or trusty PropStream. Pull that up. A separate window. Bear with me for 1 second. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And those who are giving me addresses, you want to make sure to come to our Science of Comping series. I know you guys are really big on that, and I love that. But if there's anybody else who hasn't come, you want to make sure you attend the events in the group for the Science of Comping. We literally dive into everything, valuing properties to make it easier. Okay, so this property here, 8123 Pinewood Crest Lane in Humble, Texas. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen here. So we're going to share the screen. We're going to share PropStream. Boom. Okay, so you guys can all see that. Okay, good. Looks like you can. Fantastic. So 8123 Pinewood Crest Lane. So 8123 Pinewood Crest Lane. And that's in Humble, Texas. All right. So this is PropStream, by the way, guys. If you don't have it, highly recommend it. You can go to getpropstreamnow.com and get PropStream. You get a 7-day free trial with my link. Again, you want to go to getpropstreamnow.com. I'll go ahead and put that on the screen just so you can see it. And you'll know exactly where to get it. Okay, so you can go to getpropstreamnow.com right there, and you can get a 7-day free trial of PropStream. All right, so now that we are here inside PropStream, so we put in the address, brought up the address here. We're going to go to comparables. Okay, so we're going to value this one, and we're going to go to the MLS right here. So PropStream doesn't have, these are properties that sold in the MLS, but it has an estimate over here of how much it sold for. And typically these are, ranging from 90 to 95% accurate from what PropStream says. I've seen it closer to 95%. But there are some states where, in non-disclosure states, there are some properties individually that can show up a little bit different. But for the most part, they're great, and you have no problem evaluating properties. So there's 4 steps here that we want to look at when we're evaluating the property. First thing we want to do is we want to look at the date range. We don't want to look at properties that were sold any longer than a year ago. Okay, that's the biggest thing. Don't want to look at properties sold any later than a year ago. Some wholesalers will use comps from 2 years ago, and you don't want to do that, right? It's just apples and oranges. Those are the past, completely not relevant to properties that are selling right now. So just ignore anything that happened over a year. Square footage, you're looking at properties that are within 20% in size of the square footage of your property. As you can see, our property is 2,087 square feet. So 20% smaller is 1670, 25% larger is 2504. That's why I love PropStream. It shows you how to do that. We're going to do it in a quarter mile, okay? Because the closer you get to your property, the more accurate it's going to be. So we got 3 things here. We got date range, so when the property sell, size within 20% of the square footage, distance, what we just covered, okay? We want to make sure we're selecting residential properties here too. So we're only comparing single family houses. And then year built, guys. So this is the 4th one that you want to use for comps. So we're going to compare properties that are built from 10 years older and 10 years newer. Reason behind that is building codes. A lot of things can change construction-wise, layouts of properties and things like that. When you start comparing properties that are greater than 10 years apart from each other, that really increase the renovation cost for your buyers. So I only recommend pulling comparables within 10 years apart. If an appraiser was going to look at this property, he would do the exact same thing. So 1991 to 2011. All right. So what I love about Texas is lots of buyer activity. Look at this. I did within a quarter mile at these tight parameters here. And look at all these sales I still have here. It's amazing. Now, in PropStream, you're going to also notice this right here. And you're like, did that house sell for $1,720? No, it did not, right? This is a rental comp. So basically, there are properties that are listed on the MLS for rent, and they will get rented, and PropStream posts what they got rented for. So that can be helpful if you're looking at local rents in a certain area. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a look. See, here's our property right here. So you can view in a map view, satellite view. You can literally take a walk down the street by dragging this guy, put him over here, which is pretty cool. So if you're virtual, it helps you really learn an area really well. You can draw a shape and pull all the sales in that shape. You can do all that. But as you can see here, we got a bunch of sales here. So what I love about this, I always look for a property that's sold on the same street. Because if you have a property that's sold on the same street, that's going to be the absolute best comp for you. Even if you don't have 3 comps, you want to find 3 properties that are fully renovated. But if you can't find 3, or you have 1 that's sold on the same street, that's really all that you need, because the property is on the same street. It doesn't get any more accurate than that. So what I love about this area, this is a smoking hot area. And what I love about this area is that we have 1 on the same street, 2 on the same street, and 3 on the same street. So 1, 2, and 6 would be the ones that I would suggest over here. More so laying value on 1 and 2, but we'll look at 6 since that's a little bit further away here. So, so how did I select these, right? So I looked at the pattern here, and what I'm noticing is that, 249,000, 235, 262, 253, 297. So what you can see here is that properties that are the average property is selling for around 250, somewhere around there. So one of the things I want to do is I want to see what the condition of these were. Okay, so I will open up a separate tab here. I'm going to put this into Google, and I'm going to see what condition this one sold for. I'm going to look at this har.com, because this is for Texas specifically. If it wasn't Texas, I'd look on Zillow. So I want to see the condition of this property here. All right. Looks pretty good, huh? Right? Looks good. Clean, move-in ready. Does not look renovated. See, these are from mica countertops. No granite here, but it's just clean, move-in ready, right? So now I have an idea. Okay, so clean, move-in ready properties are selling for around the 250 range. Okay, let's take a look at the second one here. Right. So we'll pop over to the second one. Share this tab instead. We're going to go to Pinewood here. Take a look at this one. Similar looking property, right? Brick. Okay. This is clean, move-in ready, outdated. Okay. So this property is clean, move-in ready, but it's not fully renovated. Now, there are certain properties that in certain areas where a property doesn't need to be fully renovated to sell for top dollar. This may be that type of an area, it may not. What leads me to believe, as it's a possibility, it may not, because we got this one here at 262, and then there's one down here at 297. So I really want to take a look at that one. So let's go take a look at this one. So we'll open up this Pinewood, just tab instead. Okay, now we're talking. Now we got granite. Okay, we have granite, but we have outdated cabinets, right? And if you're wondering how I know this, guys, you don't need to be a remodeling expert to know this. But if you look at a brand new property today, you'll notice some indentions in the cabinets here. You can see these are like older appliances here. And so this property is not renovated at all. It's clean. It's just clean, move-in ready again, right? This is another thing that wholesalers kind of get messed up. Newly renovated cabinets, guys, look like this. They have this type of, they call them shaker cabinets. They kind of look like that. But these, you can see they're flat. So it's not like a completely remodeled property. Outdated bathroom here. All this is like old school. You can see these are like yellow. So this is just not a newly renovated home. So I'm not convinced yet that that's the top value. So let's go down and take a look at this 297 one here, this pine cluster, right? So let's open up this pine cluster. Let's see if this one kind of looks like our property. So this one's, again, a brick property. Nice landscaping going on. Okay, this one looks more current. Okay, let's see what we got. Okay, we have the granite countertops. We have the indented cabinets like I talked about before. Cool. Okay, so this one's slightly more renovated. Yep, you have the stuff like that. Looks good. Okay, so this one has a little bit more going on with it. Okay, you can see this looks a little bit more modern here too. This one has a pool. Okay. Good. All right. So, so that being said, guys, what I would do here is I would take a look at, so what you can see here is that this property here, if you took the price per square foot of this property that sold, so that would be 165. Okay. And give me 1 second. Let me grab my calculator here. Okay, some of you guys might be able to do the math in your head. I'm not that guy. So $165 a square foot this sold for, and you can see that up here because I just have this one selected. Okay, 165.97. So 165, we're going to multiply that times our property square foot of 2,087. Okay, so that would suggest this property could be worth $344 if it was in the exact same condition of this one here. I'm going to take off about 20 grand because that's typically what a pool adds. So it would say 324 is what the total renovated value is of this property. So let's go ahead and take a look at how that compares to those other properties we were looking at, right? So let's take a look at these on Pinewood. So we'll just take these here. So it says the average sold price per square foot is 133. So 133, multiply that times our square footage of 2087. Okay, yeah, so boom. So what it says is it says that if you take this square footage, this 133.20, multiply it times our square foot over here of 2,087, that brings an overall value of 277. But this one with the pool right here, this one was renovated. This brings the total value of ours to 325. So I think that's right in the range. So do I think 325 is reasonable based on PropStream's estimated value? Yeah, I do. Let's take a look at ours and just make sure it looks similar to these other properties too. So we're going to pull this up here. I'm going to share this tab. Let's see what ours looks like. Boom. Our house looks exactly like those other houses do. Now, one thing I would say is this one here looks a little bit nicer on the outside as a 2-car garage. Okay, ours has 2-car garage, but the neighborhood just looks a little bit nicer. So that could play into that too. So you may want to dig a little bit deeper and look for some other comps. But just off the cuff, from what I can say, doing this very quickly, I could say 325 seems pretty realistic for this property if it was fully renovated, and you wouldn't have a problem. You wouldn't have a problem. You wouldn't have a problem showing that to other people too. Cool. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Let's see. Thank you, Chris. So appreciate it. Yep, you got it. Okay, so we're going to take a look at pegs real quick, and I think that's all we'll have time for here. Guys, what do you think of this session so far? You guys have been asking some great questions. Seems like we've got some great answers for you. Do you feel this has helped you move the ball forward and take your next step? Let me know. Love to hear what you guys think. Okay, 914 South Brazos in Weatherford, Texas. So 914 South Brazos. 914 South Brazos in Weatherford, Texas. Boom. Okay, so let me share my screen here. Let's go ahead. Debris says this is great. Love that. All right, so let me go ahead and do. Peg says this is great. Many thanks for doing the sessions. You got it. You got it. I mean, I'm here for you guys. Here for you guys. All right, let's see. Okay, so here's this Brazos and Weatherford. Can't even talk today. 914 South Brazos Street, Weatherford, Texas. All right, so this area. Okay, interesting. Two properties. Oh, never mind. We're good. had a brain stall there for a minute. Okay, so we'll compare over here. Okay, so what we got here is we have this property, 914 South Brazos Street in Weatherford, Texas. I believe that's what you said. Yeah, FSBO. Great. Okay, so we're going to come over here. We're going to do the same thing. Okay. We're going to do within the last year, 0.25. Guys, what I like about the areas you've been picking so far is there's been a lot of cash sales around. So this is always easier when there's a lot of sales around. Okay. So let's see what we got here. So we got year built. Interesting. So it doesn't say what the year built is. It's a single family house. So the year built is not disclosed here. Okay. So we'll leave that off. We can tell though, typically by pulling up the property and taking a look at it. Let me exit out of some of these other properties. Okay. So I'm going to open this up here in a separate screen, share this tab instead. We're going to take a look at our property here. See if it says what that is on Zillow. Okay. Okay, heating data, no data, no data. Interesting. So no data on the year build the property. That's really, really interesting. Okay, cool. No worries. We'll dive in here. Let's take a look at the property, see what it looks like. Okay, so this is probably one of the reasons why there's no data on the property. It's an old property. So you have it's this wood frame property right here. Okay, so let's take a look at the community here. So you got this guy with this house, so this huge fence in front of his house here. You have a stucco house. Okay, let's see if there's any consistency in the area here. Okay, you have this beautiful house right here. Cool. Yeah, so this area is interesting because there's not a lot of consistency of the home. So you have some wood frame, you have some block. So, yeah, this is an older property. It's wood frame, and that's the reason why it's they're not having a date for it there. So, but based on looking at it, I'd say that property was probably built in the 40s, maybe 50s. So, so let's go ahead and take a look here. Let's dive in. So we got the quarter mile within a year. We have residential, no year built here, sold. Cool. So with wood frame properties, you only want to make sure you compare against other wood frame properties, because wood frame and block, or wood frame and stucco, they're two different apples and oranges, right? So this one here, okay, so what I would do is I'd probably look at 1 and 5. Let's see here, 1, and I look at 5. Ooh, 5 is different. That's probably a block property if I had to guess. 1, 5, and maybe we'll do 2. Those are the, nope, that's a rental comp. All right, so let's take a look at 3. Okay, so let's see the condition this 119 sold in. Okay, distress, no. Let's see if I can find out more information about this 119. Again, as a wholesaler, guys, we are we're detectives. We're looking into. We see something that doesn't make sense. We're digging in to find more information. Okay, so this is a wood frame property. Let's see if there's any details. Great investor opportunity. Okay, that's a nice. That's realtor speak of saying the property's not updated. Yeah, see. It's like when a realtor says a property has a water view or ocean or like water view, and there's like a pond in the backyard, right? Or something like it's in a small pond at that. So, ready to be updated. Okay, so this was an as-is sale. So that's cool. It kind of lets you know what investors could be purchasing in the area. I bet you that sold for cash. If I was a betting man, which I can be. Let's see. All right, so I'm pulling this up here. Yep, it was a cash sale. Cool. So an investor bought this property. So there's your buyer, by the way. So anyway, let's go in and take a look at this one. So this one was outdated. Investor property. Okay, cool. So let's go back here. So I'm going to deselect this one, and I want to take a look at this one that sold for $270 and see what this is all about. Okay, apples and oranges from our property. So we can't use this one here as a comp. Cannot, because that is a block property. Ours is totally different. That will definitely skew the numbers. Let's take a look at this one. I'd venture to say this is probably same type of deal here. Whoops. Let me come over here. Boom. Share this tab instead. I'm going to look at this one. Okay. All right. Now we're cooking. This is exactly what we're looking for. So this property is kind of like ours, right? So there's not many comparables. Okay. Total redo. Open to a view. HVAC replace. Okay. So total redo is, again, realtor language. Poorly written there, but realtor language for it was fully remodeled, right? 36-inch ceiling-to-ceiling cabinets. And guys, if you're wondering if a property's been remodeled, when you start seeing a description like this, newer roof, shaker cabinets, soft clothes, carpet in the bedroom, designer wallpaper, like they're going a little over the top with it. But that is a key indicator the property's been renovated. So what I would do, because there's so few comps in this area, let's see where number 5 is. Okay, number 5. Yeah, I would use this one right here as your comp. Know that this is the price that your property would sell for cash and as is condition, right? And this is what the price of the property would sell for fully remodeled. So what I would do in this situation is I would take a look at this right here. Let me see your comment that you put here. You said okay, so you said had firm offer 120, but I'm thinking that's too much. Owner said it was a full gut job. Well, debatable, right? So here's the thing. If it's a full gut job, he's either a slumlord and he has someone in there and the property is like mold and it's terrible, right? Which doubtful on this type of street. Or that's just his personal opinion. And sometimes those don't carry much weight, right? So here's what I would do. And as is cash sale, you take a look at this one right here. This property sold for roughly $119.8, so or $106 a square foot. So we'll say 107 a square foot. Let's just call it because it's 106.87. So 106 or 107 a square foot. Multiply that times your square footage of 1306, and what you got there is you got 139,000. So that's probably the most a cash buyer would pay for the property. So you would definitely want to contract below that number. Now you're saying that he got had a firm offer at 120. So that's what I would also look into. So what I just showed you is a way to. Oh, I realized I wasn't sharing there. Okay, I'm bad with that, guys. You got to let me know. So this right here, this is a way to kind of figure out. All I did is I took the square footage of. Let me back up. I took the sold price per square foot of this one right here because this one was the as is cash sale wood frame property that sold. 106.87, multiply that times our 1306 square foot, and that gave us 139,140. So in my mind, a cash buyer would want to buy for that, right? That could be a general estimate, but so you'd want to get it below that number. But what you have to take in consideration, again, we are detectives, so you want to take in intel. So the intel that you have is someone said they gave them a firm offer of 120,000, right? So now what I would focus on, if you want to guarantee you can sell this thing, is you want to be below that number, right? So what you would do, if you want to figure out what the property could sell for in its best possible condition, fully renovated, you would just look at the 1007 South Waco, which is this one. So this one sold, fully renovated. So what I would do is I take 179.42, and I'd multiply that times our square footage at 1306. Whoops, shoot, 179. Let's just go 179 times 1306, and that gives us 233. The property could sell for in its fully renovated condition, right? Based on that one property. So wood frame properties, as a general rule of thumb, we like to get them, sell them at 50% of market value, and which would put you right at like 117. So that buyer who's probably buying it was more than likely an end buyer. So the only way that you can get this one, right, is if you, the only way you can get this one is if you can find out if there's any other motivation the seller has besides price, right? Is there anything else important to the seller besides price? Like, I'll give you an example. The guy said he'd buy it at 120, but he wants him to leave the house broom swept clean, or he'll buy it at 120, but he has to kick the tenant out. He doesn't want to kick the tenant out, right? So these are all things that you can use as ammo to get this one over the finish line. So cool. So this is great. Many thanks. See added info above. Boom, boom, boom. Charming. Yep. So great, guys. This was a fantastic session. We're pretty much the end of our time here today. I believe I answered everybody's questions. That's my goal in these things. But if I didn't, then make sure you bring your questions next time to these Q&A sessions, as these can be invaluable insight to showing you what it takes to get your next deal and get to your next deal as quickly as possible. So guys, if you've gotten value out of our time here today and you'd like to work with me one-on-one, what I recommend is going to virtualwholesalingmadesimple.com and apply for coaching, and make sure you're detailed in your responses, because I don't take on everybody. My capacity is limited. And if I like what you have to say, I'll consider bringing you on as a client. So guys, I look forward to working with you. I'm going to go ahead and also drop that link here in the comments, so where you can see that, and you can have an opportunity to work with me one-on-one. Amber is one of the people here in the call. Brenda also, and they are working with me, and they can give you an insight of what they've experienced. And I'll look forward to connecting with you guys. So I went ahead and dropped the link there in the comments, so you guys can go ahead and apply for coaching. If you're really looking to be serious with virtual wholesaling and get to your first deal as quickly as possible, I'd recommend doing that. And I will talk with you guys soon. Amber, or excuse me, Brenda says, you won't regret it. Awesome. Amber says, apply for coaching. Awesome. Love it, guys. Hey, thanks for your support. I appreciate it. Guys, have a great rest of the day. Go get those deals, and I'll talk to you soon.